All right. Well, while everybody's taking their seat, I'm going to go ahead and get started here with our next panel. Welcome back to everybody who's online. Hopefully you're able to get some coffee and ready for this next session. This is our employer roundtable. So we're going to talk about leveraging the registered apprenticeship models as tools for workforce transformation. And if the panelists want to come on up and join, I'll go ahead and introduce Krystal Levi. Where's Krystal? Krystal Levi, the president of the Northern Indiana Workforce Board. And as Daryl was mentioning, we have 12 workforce boards across the state. We are so fortunate to have the team in place here, led by Krystal and Greg and their colleagues in Northern Indiana. So with that, Krystal, I'll turn over to you to introduce the panel. Yep.
So thank you. And I'd like to say thank you to Regina and to Leighton, John DeSalle, all the people that we've worked with over the last few, actually, I figured out today, it's been a year and a half that this began. So you want to talk about bottlenecks. This has been a real fun challenge, getting all these things going. And it's great to hear what the employers are saying. So with that, I'd like to invite Joe Gambill and Rob Michalak. I had to check all my pronunciations beforehand. So welcome. And I think we had a fantastic segue into this session because the biggest question is, how do we get this started? What do we do? What's the bottleneck? So having the two of them with us, Joe, I'm going to have you first start, if you would, and introduce yourself and your work with apprenticeship.
Hi, my name's Joe Gambill. I am the Joint Apprenticeship Training Coordinator for the electrical union in the area. I represent the National Electrical Contractors Association in a partnership with the IBEW to educate apprentices. We're kind of the old gray hairs on the block. That's why the beard and the lost hair is there. But we've been doing apprenticeships for a very long time, and hopefully I can help with some insight into that.
Great, thank you. And Rob?
So I'm Rob Michalak, president of Masterbilt Incorporated. We're a small machine shop. So we started on the west side in the 40s, but we were incorporated in 61. So 60th anniversary this year, actually. Thanks. Yeah. So there's been 3 generations of owners, but 2 different families. So I'm since 2018, I've been owner, but we make aerospace parts mainly. We also do some medical orthopedic parts, so bone screws and spinal implants. We've grown pretty rapidly. Since 2015, we were about 4 full-time employees, 7 total. We're 54 now, total employees. So we've grown rapidly. I did an acquisition, and then we've just had a lot of organic growth. So this program I'm excited about.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you both for being here today. So one of the interesting things to me, and it was one of those little, I like little pieces of facts as they come up, and 91%. So we have Joe here representing the construction union trades, right? And we have watched them over the years as they use these programs so efficiently in training people and getting them up to skill level. For a lot of employers, one of the scary things is that this is bringing in a union shop. The truth of the matter is 91% of the apprenticeships in the state of Indiana are non-union. Okay, so if any of you are hesitant, 91% non-union. I thought that was an interesting fact. So based on that, let's get started. We've gotten the overviews from them. What's the biggest workforce challenges that your organization has experienced both pre-COVID and in current post-COVID times? And which specific job areas has your organization faced challenges in facing the workforce needs? Do you want me to start over with that?
No.
Okay. Did I speak too quickly?
No.
Okay.
In our field, one of the blessings was we were considered essential workers. So there was a minimal effect on our student base and on our work base from that point of view. But like all of us, we're still trying to figure out how mandates and suggestions and OSHA and everything else is going to affect our workforce. You know, unfortunately, I work with a lot of very strong-willed construction workers, and they have their opinions and they share their opinions. So it is a very interesting time for us, just like everyone else, to try and find a way to move forward and to continue to grow with basically diminished workforces. And we're feeling the same pinch that everyone else is, and then finding that that niche for them.
So for us, even pre-COVID, I mean, machining has kind of been a dying trade, I would say. And so we had challenges, especially in our growth pre-COVID, that were the similar challenges we have now. We can't find the experience that we want to find. Then hasn't been a lot of youth looking to get into machining. And, you know, Masterbilt, if we were to walk someone in 2015 into our shop, it wasn't a very attractive place to a high school kid or young, or someone looking for a career change. But at least we would get applicants, you know, pre-COVID. The challenge post-COVID has really been even getting the applicants. We've also, the technology of equipment to make more complex parts, even with the experienced employees, has been a challenge for them to learn the CNC programming using CAD, let's say, or very complex multifunction machines. But then to break up our machining operation, if we do it lean, we would still break up the simple machines into cells. And so we would need someone capable of operating or setting up or checking parts that used to be, you do this, batch and queue it to a different operation with those experts. So we've had challenges, you know, before and after COVID, and we're the ones with our hairs on fire, just trying to get bodies, right? And then we don't have the time or resources to get we talk about training plans or what we need to do, but we just don't take the time or the resources to get something developed. But, you know, before I came back to South Bend, I was a site leader for a large diversified manufacturing company that had a lot more resources. And I ran basically a 200-person machine shop, and we had the same problem. We didn't take the time to do the same program. So I don't think my small business problems were very different than what I had as a site leader for a very large company. And so it's not only challenging to get people in the door, but then if we get someone that shows up every day, we don't have a good system to train them other than stick them with the most experienced person on the shop floor, which is proven to be not the most effective way to do it. And then when we take our best machinists and you talk to how they became the best machinists, it's years of experience in these very specific pieces of equipment that in the aggregate make them able to be successful, you know, in new, more complex parts and new, more complex machines. You know, sometimes it feels like we're treading water in developing people.
And so how do you see apprenticeship affecting that?
Well, so, and I don't even know how Leighton was connected with me, but I, you know, got the email and to connect, and he came in and we talked about this, and it's something we had talked about internally, and a couple of, you know, my very experienced machinists had gone through journeyman apprenticeship programs that just no longer exist in high schools or in our small business world. And, you know, Chu, who's my personal banker turned HR, we recruit talent anywhere we can get it. You know, we were talking, we've been trying to look at ways to get people in the door, and we thought this was, you know, the perfect way for us to get people in the door that just show up every day, understand being on time, want to better themselves, but then help us develop a system that we just don't have time to do or don't take the time, right? And so we are stage 3 now. We're very close. We haven't launched yet, but you they have some experience in this, and I mean, we're just excited at the prospect. We have employees, we've hired people to do maintenance that they want to learn machining, but then once again, we don't have a good way to teach them machining, but we put them on a machine, then we hire someone else in maintenance, that shows the ability. So this, not only for recruiting, but also for then development within, and then we can tie compensation to it. So then we don't get into, this finger pointing on who makes what because they know more and that someone else makes less. We can put some structure around the compensation based on levels of development within the business.
Thank you. Good answer. And if you're in stage 3, that's fantastic. Do you have anything to add to that, Jeff? No, okay, that's okay. So the next question is, as you're looking at these people that you're starting to build up, and the forthcoming needs of your company, right? Or the companies you're working with. How does this help you develop and adopt additional digital transformation? Really looking at the industry 4.0 and moving to those next levels. What does this open up for you in that respect?
So, most of us think of the traditional construction industry. Well, with the advent of three-dimensional modeling, partnerships with University of Notre Dame and other places where we are now moving forward to almost manufacturing a building in the construction area. So the coordination, the knowledge of digital technology, the knowledge of the industry is now migrating across the board. So we're seeing that we have to now create new skill levels that were never there before. And so we're having contractors now call us and ask us, how do I get to this person that no longer or doesn't even understand the technology and get them educated? And that challenge is felt across everybody's, industry. And the biggest thing that I find is that we have to continually connect to the younger people that can handle that technology and help them bring up actually our older members.
And so, thank you. Have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, this does a lot of work for us that then we can bolt onto it. So it creates the structure around, an apprenticeship program, and we can bolt on to that. I mean, in machining, the basics, they improve with technology, but some of the basics really don't change in GD&T. And but to be able to like 3D modeling, to be able to program parts or develop parts using 3D modeling, multifunction machines. If we get into, we will get into automation. Then once we get into automation, then we're creating more maintenance type things that are going to require advanced levels. And, I feel like this apprenticeship program can be many things once we have something that we can bolt on and learn how it plays out with, our workforce, new recruits, people that come develop within the organization. So it gives us some flexibility to keep evolving our workforce as the technology keeps evolving, but still putting in the building blocks that no matter how advanced we've had some people that maybe have played with, let's say, a CAD CAM system, they don't understand certain aspects of machining, and it's even more disastrous, the effect of you crashing one of these complex machines or misprogramming a robot, or so, the consequences are actually increasing of not developing the core skills that this can help us with.
Thank you. So this is a capacity question. Understanding the time it takes to develop a registered apprenticeship, do your organization see any challenges in companies developing and implementing apprenticeships. What do you see as the challenge? That's the big question, because many times, kind of going back to Dr. Balkin's question, you know, what's the roadblock?
So obviously the gray hair in the group. Our apprenticeship started in 1946 and has developed over the years to now a national curriculum, the whole 9 yards. But what usually is the scariest part about that is how do I get both employer and employee to buy in? Well, the thing that we do, we're a self-funded agency. So the thing that we do is we actually, our employees buy in by donating to the cause through their income. But that partnership allows them to then have ownership onto the product lines that they're now building. And I think that that's where you have to get those employees that have been doing it forever to buy in with management that it is a building upon their legacy. And I think that's how the construction trades have done it for hundreds of years now, is we try and instill day one into our members that we're building a legacy of the future, that you're helping that company grow, that when you walk away from that company 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, that all of your accomplishments will still be felt by the people that you've trained behind you. And I think that once you get the employees to buy in, as well as management to buy in, that you are creating that family-oriented business model that everyone has ownership in. It really creates some strength and some unity in your business.
Well, that was good to hear, actually. So my mind's racing, but we'd have probably been in 2046 still talking about putting a program together, just because the day-to-day is difficult in our small business. And we did take the steps, as an example, a couple years ago, as we tried to get together to create the building blocks of what we thought would be a training program by creating a test on machining to give people in interviews so we could help screen, and then it would help us set, we gave it to all of our existing employees to once again calibrate compensation, because especially I acquired a business and there's a lot of these, deals that happen. And so, but that took us literally 6 months just to create like a 20-question test, just because we don't have the time, or we don't take the time. I don't want to say we don't have the time. We could, at the expense of other things, basically. So I think we would have probably never gotten it done, bottom line. So I feel fortunate right now, and once again, excited to get it started. But I think the challenges for our size business is just time and resources.
So seeing where you are in the process compared to where you are in the process, how has working with Lyft and with the Workforce Board, how has that helped you get this in place, with the Workforce Board serving as the intermediary?
Yeah, so basically they're doing all the legwork essentially, from experience in developing it. And then we, as part of this final phase 3, will review the curriculum and sign off on it. And those are the things we have time for, all this legwork up front. And there's some experience in other machining businesses, that may bring things we wouldn't have even thought of. So I think it's basically doing all the heavy lifting, and then we will look at it. And then once again, moving forward, once we have something, then it helps us, I think, tack onto it, or maybe do, depending on automation in the future and whatnot, we may create these other avenues, which then once again, for a small business, it gives people who come in opportunities to do other things instead of leaving the business, a talented person, because they want to get into something else, but we don't have a way to get them in to something or train them in it.
Awesome. So what role do you see K-12 in the adult ed programs, respectively, having in partnering with employers to train the workforce of the future?
Yeah, I mean, for me, we would we would love to see in high schools shop again. But you know, the math curriculum in pretty much any of these aspects, I think, especially in machining or robotics and this type of thing, is invaluable. You know, we've spent the time with people to do some of that training ourselves, and then you know, I think the high school especially, I have nephews in high school that I couldn't get into the shop, or when I did, they didn't want to come back in, right? But it's this, you know, but then there's some visibility of you know, the compensation potential, which as you know, our world improves or becomes more complex, there's going to be more opportunities, but also that, you know, making things, physically making things, is a good thing, and it's not going away. And there's a great career ahead, and you know, highlighting, you know, I don't know, businesses like ours or others in the area that are doing some really exciting things, in my opinion, and that's cool stuff. And those of you, well, so I bought a building and invested a lot of debt into this building to make the environment just be, you know, a cleaner. I think there was discussion around aerospace. The same shop 5 years ago they walked in is a different shop now, and then they're seeing 3D modeling out on the floor, you know, at computers, at machines. So, you know, I think the basics too of like being on time, that stuff matters, you know, teaching kind of the life skills, and then obviously the ante is, you know, math and reading and whatnot, and then, you know, helping with partnering with industry to give this type of industry, you know, a more desirable appeal, I guess, to kids in high schools, especially.
So I had the great fortune of meeting with the CT directors in our area. You will not find a more passionate group that wants to teach tactile and soft skills. And I mean, how many of you out there have a need for somebody with tactile physical skills to be able to be in your business, right? And over the years, a lot of that had disappeared in the K through 12. And there was a large recognition now that you have to bring that back to the forefront. And the CT programs, the building trades programs, all these programs could be great resources for you to start recruiting people to learn your skills. First thing is they need to hear from management. They need to hear from owners why soft skills are so important. Why the simple thing of just show up. You know, the first thing that I say on orientation day is the only thing you control is showing up and showing up on time, right? All the other things that go into the job are things that other people are going to teach you, but your ability to be there with eyes open, minds open to learn is one of your greatest gifts. And the CT directors in this area that I met, every single one of them love that, want to bring that to you. You could have a very nice resource to find those people that are already interested in the fields where they are tactile learners.
And so with that, I put it out to you. My next question for them, and they've pretty much answered it, is, you know, what's your responsibility or your role in some of this K-12 space? And we had the actual pleasure of putting together, and Darcy's already left, but we had the pleasure of putting together the governor's workforce cabinet's CLNA. We convened everyone and we found out so much information. Not only did we provide them with the data, but the information we got back, the feedback from Brandon and Chad and all the directors was just simply amazing. And so I'm going to open that up. They decided that they wanted to meet on a monthly basis. And so anyone who's interested in being part of that conversation, where does apprenticeship go? How can we help the CTE directors actually feed your businesses? And that's invaluable. So that's open. Contact me, let me know. Layton's telling me I have 1 more minute. So Krystal, shut up. Got it?
No, you're good.
I take it. Oh,
Krystal,
you got a question?
So yeah, we have a question, but to the point of the CLNA meeting, so a lot of people learned a lot from Brandon and others at that meeting. And so there was an online question just asking about what are some of the challenges at the K-12 level that we see with CTE. So I just wanted to direct that to Brandon to just share some of his experiences as a CTE director.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is perception. When we talk about a number of these fields that we work to build these pathways and connect students with viable careers that are based off the stackable credentials that we want to offer in our CTE programming at the high school level that allow for that upward mobility. The perception piece is the biggest obstacle that we have. Throughout these last 2 years in COVID, our obstacles are, to sell our programming for a number of our fields, kids need to be in and see it. Well, we haven't been allowed to bring people into our buildings. We have partners in this room, HEA, that have opportunities for students to get connected during 7th and 8th grade. Well, those look slightly different over the last couple of years. We have precision machining. We would love to feed you kids every single year. But if we don't have employers engaged in those conversations, and we do to a level, but we need it to be consistent, and it just can't be with the economic ups and downs. It needs to be consistent, because the more we can build that consistent message, and it just doesn't come in a year here and then 4 years later we have it again, then our pipeline starts to build up. Because a lot of what happens in the high school world is if we can run a quality CTE programming, kids' word of mouth is what's going to sell the program. And those are the things that we look at. It's very difficult to build that pipeline because, trust me, we want to do that. We want to continue to push the envelope as far as in what are the credentials we can offer with our programs. We want to support the state's next level programs of study and ensure we're doing it right. But part of it is collectively, we got to figure out how to reach not just students, parents, counselors. Daryl talked about counselors and their role. I would say it's not just the counselor's role. It's all of us that are involved in the young person's life. We have preparing for college and careers at the 8th and 9th grade level, which should be an outstanding opportunity to explore careers and learn about it. But if we're not doing that across all of our school settings in a manner that is purposeful, it's for naught. If we don't have parents that are engaged and create opportunities for parents to learn valuable information that they want to learn instead of just pulling out a phone and clicking and checking it out, we are going to continue to have these struggles. And so we want to be involved in these. We want to create these pathways and these pipelines, but we have to have engagement across everybody that's involved with that young person to try to get them there.
Thank you.
Thanks. There are a couple online questions we'll warm you up with. Ann Vole, our friend at the Sibley Center, wanted, I think, Mr. Gambill, you said a tactile learner. Could you elaborate on your definition of a tactile learner?
So there are multiple ways that a person learns. And a lot of people don't realize that that person that struggles in the book learning world really learns better by touch. I'm almost a person that can close my eyes and physically see the building I'm building. Because once it touches my fingers, I can retain it, I can keep it, I can work with it. You put a technical document in front of my hands, that's very tough. This is where apprenticeships help. This is 100% where apprenticeships help. Because that person that needs to study that material now needs to be able to see it actually function, or needs to be able to break it in a safe environment with our instructors or with our people from Ivy Tech and all the other things. Break it on their dime, not on your dime. You see what I'm saying? So a tactile learner is someone who just physically learns quicker through their physical skills and abilities, and then the visual helps them to support that.
Thanks. And we'll have you keep going, John Delgado.
Oh, John.
Yeah. So Joe and the IBEW has one of the best registered apprenticeship programs in the state. What, Joe, is the hourly rate for your members after they complete the program, and what's the total package? As it'd be good to know this information. I think it speaks back to some of the misconceptions and so on.
Okay, so that's a tough answer. So in the apprenticeship programs, first of all, every member contributes a percentage of their gross pay. Right around 1% of gross goes right back into education. And that's for adult learning, that's for all the way through. In our local area, which is Berrien and Cass, St. Joe, Elkhart, Marshall, and Kosciuszko counties, an IBW journeyman wireman electrician total package is $62 an hour. It's $36.50 an hour on the check. Healthcare, 3 retirements, a 401k is all on top of that. So one of the things that we pride ourselves in is when we tell you you're going to make $36.50 on the check, that we don't have to reach into your pocket for healthcare. We don't have to, you're already contributing that. Each member then gets to vote on how that raise goes into effect. And that's a partnership with NECA. And we're constantly in conversations with our contractors to make sure that we're not pricing ourselves out of the marketplace.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. First, let me say I have a special beat in my heart for those that are in the trades. I grew up with family members that are in that field, cousins that are in construction workers, and an engineer, an electrician. My cousin who's an electrician asked me, what can we do to get individuals of color into the apprenticeship field? And just want to get a sense from you, what have been some efforts that have been put in place to strengthen that pipeline, or at least build the pipeline to recruit more individuals of color to go into the trades?
The history of the trades has always been a word of mouth or a traditional, I don't want to use the word nepotism, but a traditional lifeline of you did it, your son did it, your grandson did it, everything else. The Department of Labor does an incredible job of requiring that we follow strict EEOC requirements. I personally have a heart for this. I know a lot of my members have a heart for this. We have to show growth in those fields. But I personally, inner city kids, single parent household, I want to bring more and more people in. So what I do is I a lot of times take my members of color, I have over 15% female that are apprentices right now. And I take them back to the schools or to other schools and have them do little training seminars so that kids see them and see that they're not alone. You know, that we want to grow the industry across the board. We have a long way to go, but I honestly believe that starts with me and that I have to find those people. Our application process is online. We have no idea who's coming into the program until they come to interview. So we try to be very strict about that and try and make sure that no one gets an unfair. And then even if they struggle in math or something like that, we have partnered with the national and even with Ivy Tech for math courses so that they can take math courses or English comprehension courses so they can pass our entrance exam.
Thank you.
I actually want to comment on that as a like small business owner. I think the apprenticeship program gives us the opportunity to do the training to get people up, to take people from all different diverse backgrounds, because without a good training program or a way to lift people up, sometimes you're setting someone up for failure. And this can help with our diversity recruiting because we have a structure to bring people up to speed that want to get there, regardless of any sort of background when they walked in the doors. So, I look at this as an opportunity for us to diversify our workforce like we've never been able to.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to add to Joe's answer about that. The state of Indiana, well, back during the Johnson administration, there were special programs put into place that actually helped with people of color getting into those programs. Indiana has the only remaining program in place now throughout the United States called the Indiana Plan. The state of Indiana actually has set aside funds that goes to several different organizations, but the Indiana Plan is one of those, receiving funds from the state of Indiana to do just that work, to get them into the trades. And they do a great job. Devin Doss is who heads that up. The greater Indianapolis area is primarily where they work, but up in Gary as well. And as that program continues to do better and we can expand it, you'll see a lot more of that, I think. So yeah, definitely important in the state of Indiana, definitely within the trade.
Yes.
So kind of following up on what Dr. Balkin said, Brandon commented, hearing the stories that you shared with us at the beginning. There's a lot of talk about bottlenecks, rising and falling, need to have employees to bring them in. Is there something that we can be doing regionally, more collaboratively, that you're seeing, especially as business owners, as people that are seeing how we're placing folks in trades and in these next level jobs? Is there some more collaboration? Because this Lift Network is a great example of it, but is there something more yet that you're seeing that we're needing in order to make it more viable, that we're in front of those students, even in low demand times, even in times when it might be difficult because we're so busy that it's hard to break away? Like, what is it that you would like to see that increases our collaboration, that makes those conversations more likely to happen?
Right. I could talk to, because at the end of the day, there are, ups and downs in the business, right? I mean, and as an example, as a small business owner, I have long-term agreements with my customers on pricing for parts that's fixed or set some price out in the future, regardless of the demand, right? But I think, even in downturns, and I'm just going to be blunt, like internships and whatnot, they're also very affordable ways for a business to get someone into like an apprenticeship program, let's say, or give them a project base that where we couldn't afford a salary full-time employee to do something that a high school person that's good in Excel or good in or can pick up this computer things could do projects, or someone that's good with fixing could be doing some project with machines and whatnot. So it just seems to me like more collaboration. We a few years ago, I did several with Work One. I had some interns that came in the summer and did specific projects. And one of them in particular, we ended up hiring him out of the program full time, but we didn't have an apprenticeship program, and he wanted to learn more, but he didn't have a lot of capability, tried to learn on his own, had a few hiccups at the machine. So I think, and then that doesn't go very well, right? As far as the other experienced or the person training them, then that person feels accountable, as opposed to a program now we can have in place. But I think, the downturns are good times for that type of co-op or internship in the summer, or something that can give the person exposure and also give some benefit to the company at a much lower cost than what they would have to do otherwise.
I just came back from a conference, and met with training directors from the entire Midwest. And I have always gone into the schools, and I put my little table out, and I sit there at lunchtime, and people love, there's a group called Build to Succeed. They talk about all the building trades. They're statewide. It's a group that statewide covers building trades. Well, they have this little orange squishy hard hat. They go off my table in 2 seconds. I put out stuff from Ivy Tech. I have their lanyards and pens that my friend Izza has helped me out with, and they go and get those sunglasses. Do they really listen to me? Sometimes. I watch the Marine recruiters do the same thing. I watch all the recruiters. And one of the things that hit me in this conference is that these real numbers, the offers that you as owners and want your apprentices to be able to see as a future movement within the industry, that's where you need to get to the superintendents and the principals and the school boards, because they take their knowledge, and this is a thing that I was told, and it makes sense to me. Anything you do in life, if you do it long enough, you become institutionalized to it. We have institutionalized our educators. How did they become an educator? They went through school, they left school, they went through college, they now went and did their bachelor's, now they did their master's, some did their doctorate. I like picking on Lisa. And then they've done education all the way through. They don't understand that we are still educating our people. So they need to know at the top level down how we can be in that same conversation with them. We're not taking students from anyone, but our educational pathway is the way for a lot of students to make those choices. I love the statistic that over 90% of people that go through apprenticeship programs complete them and stay with that workforce. I challenge any university to have the same graduation rate as 90% from freshmen on through. That's the strength that we can give to the industry that needs us the most right now.
And have them stay in that field of study.
Stay in that field of study, exactly.
So we're going to take one more virtual question, and then Krystal can close us out with any final questions she wants to make for the panel. So one really good question online. Can you speak to the liability of having youth in your facilities and working with machine tool technology? So, what are some of the challenges and liabilities for under 18 workers when it comes to working with, seemingly dangerous or actually dangerous equipment, et cetera?
Yeah, so that the liability is a concern, but there's plenty of things in a shop where that don't carry the same risk factors as other things in the shop, number one. Number two, once again, having a program for the training, reduces the risk of something happening in the training, right? If we design a good program and we put people on appropriate equipment at whatever level they are of experience, and then so there's things we can do as a business to minimize the risks, I guess the risk factors in any aspect of working in a shop. Fact is, there are inherent risks. So a part of any, our apprenticeship program will be safety, right? So safety awareness, that being part of what trains. To be honest, when it comes to safety, I'm more concerned with some of my more experienced employees because they tell me it's never happened to them, so they can do something with a door open and then I interlock the thing and it's never being open again. I don't care what you've done in the past, right? It's a probability factor. So I think teaching risk identification and then putting people in a program that's structured and then putting them at the appropriate equipment based on their skill level basically minimizes that risk to me, right? And that's when it comes to preventing injury, is minimizing the risk is the most we can do. So obviously, you know, I don't. It could be it could be concerning, but I don't think it's just because there's an age means that it's a higher risk than other things, than other people, I should say.
That's an interesting question because we just had that question. In the construction industry, most contractors love that magic 18-year-old line. Well, that's not the people that, I mean, there are those people that I need to reach out to in the apprenticeships, the 18 and overs. But it's the ones in high school we also have to consider. And I think that if you build your apprenticeship around safety first, focus and safety first, you can sell that to the insurance companies. You can sell that to the insurance groups and say, listen, in my case, they are OSHA 10 certified before they even walk on a job site. Okay, and working towards OSHA 30. So they're already familiar with the OSHA requirements to be on that job site. Through your apprenticeships, if you start to show that your apprentices are better trained for safety than the people you already have working, that age group will change, right? That insurance benefit and loss statement will change. So that's one of the big things that I think we need to continue to do. Build our apprenticeship safety first and work forward from there.
Awesome. Any final thoughts? Would you encourage people to do this? Would you tell them to take the risk on an apprenticeship?
Okay, gray hair again. So to kind of give you an idea of my history, the IBW in this area has been around since 1917. We've been a DOL registered apprenticeship since 1946. So we've gone through all the bumps and bruises with the Department of Labor. Their focus is on safety and on creating a great uniform education that they can make sure our labor force is ready to work at its top level. They're not Big Brother, they're a partnership. If you work with that partnership, they will help lead you. I think, if I remember correctly, and Isa may know this just because she has the history of it, I think she has about 19 disciplines within the building trades that she deals with. And I think that we became a degree program with Ivy Tech right around 2001, 2002, in that range, I'm guessing. 97? 97. That was
Close,
pre
but no
my time.
cigar.
So, but lean on your educators. I think the LIFT program really works well because we help them learn about apprenticeships and they're taking it to the next level. So that's one of the things that you really need to create, that symbiotic relationship with education.
Well, I mean, we haven't launched it yet, right? So I can't really recommend.
I'm putting you
But
on the spot. Come on.
I'm hopeful in a year or 2 years I'll be recommending it. But I talked about the reasons why I'm so excited about this and feel like it's so necessary. So there's no way this can fail in our business. And once again, I would have never gotten as far as we are now on our own. So this is going to be a success story for Masterbilt because we're going to make sure it is. And then I'm hopeful, that there will be some learning, from the network on the next, because it's not as if especially if I'm successful in this, we won't be the only machine shop in the area, right? And I think that's good for all of us in the end. So, I expect that this will be something I will highly recommend in the future because I think it's so essential for us moving forward, that we're going to make it successful. And there's obviously examples of, long history of this being successful. So
thank you both for strengthening the economy here in Region 2. We appreciate your work. Thanks.